everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, I'm going to record it from this Costco parking lot as Jenica's inside getting some groceries. And I've had this thought that I've wanted to share for a while in regards to Christ's appearance to Adam-ondi-Ahman and to the New Jerusalem. So there's different schools of thought out there, right? Everyone believes according to their own research and their own opinions. You have the one group that thinks that the entire church is going to go to Adam-ondi-Ahman and physically be present in the valley of Adam-ondi-Ahman. And then later, Christ is going to come to Jackson County, Missouri, where all the righteous saints will be, and the actual city of New Jerusalem will be built up after everybody has come there with their hand carts and bicycles and everything else. And then at that point, we can know that his coming to the Jews and to the world is imminent, right? And I don't hold that point of view. I think things happen in natural ways. We've talked about Adam-ondi-Ahman and how Joseph Fielding Smith said that the majority of the saints aren't going to know that it happened. And the reason why is because we're in a testing period. You know, we're still in mortality, and we're coming up against this time where if you're living a telestial lifestyle, you won't be moving on into the millennium. It's a test, right? And so we've talked about how most likely, this is my opinion, most likely the very first or maybe first several sessions of Adam-ondi-Ahman have already taken place, possibly at the actual location, and how a general conference may be a part of Adam-ondi-Ahman. For all I know, maybe all general conference sessions have been part of Adam-ondi-Ahman. Maybe just the April 2020. I don't know. But we've discussed that before. We've discussed the New Jerusalem. And again, Joseph Fielding Smith said that when we're talking about New Jerusalem, there's no difference between New Jerusalem and the church. Like, there will be an actual New Jerusalem city. But whenever prophecy, whenever the scriptures are talking about New Jerusalem, it's talking about the church. And so we've talked about the fact that it very well could be that Christ has been visiting us, the church, New Jerusalem, in his temples, as well as in dreams and visions and maybe personal experiences. And that may be all that means. Well, I want to explore another idea. I don't necessarily believe this, but I think that this is another way that all this could happen. And this idea is that of having a veil placed over your mind. We know that that's already taken place by coming to earth, participating in this mortal experience. We don't remember what happened in the pre-mortal life. We had a veil placed over our minds, and we can't remember. But we do know that in the pre-mortal life, we were prepared. It's like we trained, we learned, we were educated, and we were given specific missions to perform here in mortality, which is kind of a weird idea because, you know, we don't remember it, but somehow it's still there somewhere. Like in our spiritual memory, we may not have like conscious memory of it, but it's like still there somehow. And so my question is, would it be too much of a stretch to believe that Christ's appearance to Adam-ondi-Ahman or the New Jerusalem, maybe those things have already happened? Maybe we were actually there. Maybe in some kind of miraculous way, supernatural way, we were brought to the valley of Adam-ondi-Ahman and a veil has been placed over our minds. Who's to say that that's not true? Now, I don't have anything to back that up, but I'm just using the idea of mortality and having a veil over our minds, a veil of forgetfulness, forgetting the pre-mortal life. We know that that's happened. And so, my gosh, I'm seeing the doctor on Monday. But it could happen again. And it's very similar because the reason why we have a veil of forgetfulness is because if we remembered everything from the pre-mortal life, it would rob us of our agency to, for example, be atheists. Because we would know for sure that there is a God, for example. And many other things. Mortality and its trials wouldn't be the same if we remembered everything from before this life. You know, for example, we would remember Christ in that he was chosen to be the Savior of the world. And so under those conditions, would the world still have all these different religions? Maybe they would, but maybe they wouldn't be as many as what we have today. Maybe they would all be some interpretation of Christianity or something like that. But you see why it's important to have our that veil of forgetfulness as we come into mortality. And the same may be true if we've already been to Adam-ondi-Ahman or New Jerusalem, if we received instructions there to help prepare for the second coming. Who's to say that hasn't happened? In the premortal life, we received missions and instructions and training. Maybe that same thing has happened at Adam-ondi-Ahman or New Jerusalem. What if whenever you go to the temple, what if you meet with Christ every single time, but then a veil is placed over your mind? And he gives you instructions, he teaches you things, he blesses you, but then we won't remember until after the second coming has taken place. Like once he's openly appeared to the Jews and to the world, maybe at that point we'll be able to look back and realize that we've been having these meetings. Maybe that's why it's so important that we go to the temple so frequently. It's important, obviously, because we're doing the work of salvation. We're gathering scattered Israel on the other side of the veil. But maybe there's more going on there than what we realize. Maybe there's more to the endowment session than what we realize. So this is it's just an idea. It's just another way that things could happen. I'm not sure that there's anything to say that it couldn't happen in that way. You know, you take this classic view that the entire church would be, like every single, righteous member of the church would be at Adam-ondi-Ahman. Maybe that's taken place. Maybe we've already been there. Maybe it's been done in multiple sessions. Different groups have been there, and you just didn't know. It sounds really wild, but it could be. And in that way, nobody would know about it. You wouldn't be able to afterwards go and tell. Because remember when Sister Nelson in the 2016 worldwide young adult devotional at BYU Hawaii, that's where she made that famous statement, or she posed the question to the young adults, what if you knew that Christ had already, met with several large gatherings of saints, priesthood, and that he's going around the world right now and he's having all these conferences, but the world doesn't know about it. CNN doesn't know about it. The blogosphere doesn't know about it. Well, if it's been happening in this way, you wouldn't be in a position to tell CNN, or I wouldn't be able to make a YouTube video about it because I wouldn't have remembered it. So this is what I'm saying, whenever people say, this hasn't happened yet, that hasn't happened yet, I feel like it's a lack of being able to conceptualize different possibilities. Like there's just like this very narrow, very rigid interpretation of how things are supposed to happen. And maybe they will happen that way. I'm not saying that they won't. Well, it depends on what it is you're saying, of course, because I have my spreadsheet, which it's my spreadsheet quotes common misconceptions, and then I have stuff on my quotes A through Z spreadsheet, and I have a spreadsheet for the 10 Lost Tribes. So it depends on what you're talking about. But other things, people just want to like set things in stone and say, oh, it has to happen this way. It has to happen exactly like this. And again, I think it's just a lack of being able to visualize the different possibilities and the way that things can happen in a natural way. Again, we're here in mortality being tested just in general. But in addition, right now in the last dispensation, we're like at the end of this phase of the test. This 6,000 year period of this type of testing in telestial conditions, that's coming to an end. And then we're moving on into a new phase of the test, the last phase, the millennium, and the events that happen after the millennium. So it would make sense to me, just like it makes sense to put the veil of forgetfulness over our minds when we come to this world, that maybe the same thing would happen in the lead up to the second coming. That you could still receive instructions, training, information, knowledge, whatever, in the lead up to the second coming. And then once it happens, like I said, maybe at that point we'll remember. So it's just an idea that I had, and I'm not trying to say that this is how it is. I just think that it's another possibility. I guess if I were to put forward my best guess of how these things are going to happen, I think it's something like this. I think that the brethren have probably already met at Adam-ondi-Ahman, maybe several times, and then all other sessions of Adam-ondi-Ahman are through General Conference. But specifically, if there's only one, then specifically the April 2020 General Conference. And then we've read from Orson Pratt. He's the only one that's like really said this, but the way that he portrayed events in this one discourse in the Journal of Discourses is that we would have that sacrament meeting with Christ after we've been caught up. So the way that he made it seem is that you've already had like these different sessions, but then the final session where we have the sacrament with the Savior and I guess the entire church would happen once we're caught up and meet him in the clouds. And I think that makes a lot of sense to me. So maybe we've already had sessions, ones that we didn't know about, ones that we participated in and didn't know about. And then at the end, once we're caught up, then we have like that final session. It definitely could be like that. And then with the New Jerusalem, I'm not one to think that we still have to build all the roads and the streets the way that it was revealed by Joseph Smith. I think that's going to come in time. But I think that the beginning of it has already started. If you look back in my videos, just do a search for Independence Visitor Center. We have learned through the diary of Alvin R. Dyer, who was a member of the First Presidency, and he had a very special mission that had to do with the lands in Missouri. And you can find this on the Interpreter Foundation's website. They have an article called The Past, Present, and Future of the Temple Lot. And in that article, they share that part of his diary, that when they built the Independence Visitor Center, they did it with the intention of it being a visitor center, but being able to be converted in the future into one of the 24 temples of the 24 temple complex, because that was the original plan, was to have 24 temples. So we don't own the land where the first temple would have been built, right? That's owned by the Church of Christ Temple Lot. And then the rest of the land, a lot of it is owned by the Community of Christ, but we also have a piece of the land. And in the spot where we built the Independence Visitor Center, that building was built according to the specifications given to Joseph Smith, like through Revelation. Sorry, Jenica's here. Through Revelation of how the dimensions of those temples. So it wouldn't take much to renovate that building and then turn it into the temple that it's meant to be. So we already have a temple there in waiting. We already have a stake. For the millionth time, the original plan for New Jerusalem, it was supposed to be a city of 15 to 20,000 people. That is it. And then once it's completed, you move on and you build more cities after the same pattern. So I don't understand this whole idea that the entire church is going to go to New Jerusalem. It's not true. Church leaders have tried to express that over and over and over again, and still this like romanticized idea persists for some reason. I guess because it's really exciting. I don't know. But the entire church is not going to go there, and even if they did, the city is only for 15 to 20,000 people. You'd probably live in a city around there, I guess. But the whole church is not going to be gathered there. So anyway, we've read from Bruce R. McConkie and how he said that each stake in Zion is a city of holiness. We're establishing Zion throughout the entire world. And each stake is a city of holiness. And so we already have a stake right there in Independence, Missouri. So with Christ meeting the saints in New Jerusalem, I think that just means the entire church. And anytime that he's gone to a temple or gone to, maybe he goes to every single stake conference for all you know. Maybe the same thing. You go to a stake conference, he's there, you see him, then you have a veil placed over your mind. who knows how it works, but there's so many different ways that this can happen and may be happening. But anyway, sorry, just rambling at this point. I guess I kind of always ramble. But I don't know. Have you ever had this idea before? Like, have you ever thought about this? I'm sure I'm not the only one that's ever thought about this. If you have, put it in the comments below. If you have any other ideas of how these prophecies can be fulfilled, put that in the comments below. And maybe if it's something that I haven't heard before, then maybe I'll do it. And I can feel it coming, so I better just address it right now. A lot of people get confused by the New Jerusalem described in the book of Revelation. There's people that believe, and it's okay if you believe this way, they believe the literal dimensions that are given in the book of Revelation, where New Jerusalem is supposed to be this gigantic, like, continent-sized cube, essentially the size of the moon, but a cube that's supposed to be on top of the American continent. You guys, that's symbolic. There's not going to be a gigantic cube on the American continent. That's not New Jerusalem. Okay, go look at the Institute's student manual for the book of Revelation. It talks about it there. There's not going to be a gigantic cube. There is this idea that we have the New Jerusalem that comes out of heaven at the time of the second coming, meaning the city of Enoch. They're going to meet with the New Jerusalem from beneath and join together as one city. So there's that time that a city descends out of heaven. And then at the end of the millennium, there's another time that happens. I've done a video about that. One of my subscribers, Christian Zybarth, he kind of like sent me a thing that kind of explains that, how it's probably going to be just like how we have people right now that they get translated, like, or there have been people that have been translated, resurrected. They go to a certain place, and then at the second coming, they come down and meet with those of us that remain for the millennium. And then something similar will happen at the end of the millennium, where those that have moved on from mortality, you know, because the resurrected saints aren't going to always be on the earth. Joseph Smith talked about that Christ and the resurrected saints will probably only be on the earth during the millennium when it's necessary to do things, but most likely they'll be in another place most of the time. And so I think what happens is at the end of the millennium, that's when you have again another New Jerusalem that comes down, and this time it'll be for the final time, because at that point, after the millennium, that's when the earth becomes a celestial world. And yeah, so man, that was a lot of stuff to cover. I don't like talking about things without being able to show it on the screen to show you where I'm getting some of these ideas. So if there's anything that you questioned that I referred to, go look it up, except for my idea about a veil of forgetfulness, you know, being part of Adam-ondi-Ahman, because I have nothing to back that up. That's just a pure guess. But, okay, that's it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Like this video if you liked it. Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.